Good morning. Good Thursday morning. It's time for Our Town here on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. My name is Darren Swinson. Our Town, as always, brought to you by Decorah Bank and Trust. We got a 5-guest program on the show this morning. A little later on in the show, we'll talk to Micheal Coyle. He's the Chief Administrative Officer of Veterans Memorial Hospital in Waukon. This week, they began a series of public meetings about their upcoming referendum in November, which will ask city taxpayers and county taxpayers if they want to transfer the ownership of Veterans Memorial Hospital from a city-owned to a county-owned facility. We'll have our monthly check-in with Decorah Superintendent Tim Cronin. We'll talk to Lori Berry from Helping Services for Youth and Family. Next week is Child Passenger Safety Week, and she'll give us some information, some valuable information on car seats, what's proper for your child, what's proper for your toddler, and all sorts of good information related to that. Coming up tomorrow is coming up Saturday is the Northeast Iowa Walk to End Alzheimer's. Christine Hess is the manager of that walk. She'll tell us all about that event. But coming up tomorrow, it's been a long time coming. About a year of work has been put into it. It's going to be the college Game of Dreams at the Field of Dreams. The Luther College baseball team will take on Briarcliff tomorrow night, and we will discuss the goings-on in that game with Luther College baseball coach Bryan Nikkel. He is our first guest this morning on Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River. This Friday night, it's finally time. The Game of Dreams at the Field of Dreams movie site. It's Luther College and Briarcliff this Friday night, and chatting about the game with head coach Bryan Nikkel. And coach, how long has it been from the initial idea for this game to its implementation this week?
Yeah, Darren, I mean, man, we are excited. It's crazy. It's been almost a calendar year. You know, things got put in motion by Briarcliff, and I've got a connection to them and their program, their baseball coach, known him for a long time. And he called late last summer, I think it was in July, and shot the idea to me. And without even going through the appropriate channels, I said, yep, we're in. Luther College will be there. And obviously our administration was all on board and loved the idea. And I think, it was the 1st of October maybe when we officially announced, but it had been in the works maybe since last July. So we're over a calendar year away, and it's amazing. It's coming fast here.
Talk about the support and the attention this game has gotten to this point. Has it surpassed your initial expectations?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, people behind the scenes working really hard, administrators making sure all the details are covered. And, from the very beginning, and I think everybody on board was, how do we give our student athletes a great experience, a once in a lifetime experience? And that's been the goal for everybody. So that's, been, as I told you earlier, that's going to make the juice worth the squeeze here, all this work and all this effort and behind the scenes and figuring it out. So I'm excited for all the work that the Briarcliff folks and the Luther folks have put in to give our kids this experience.
Tell us about the schedule of events that day at the Field of Dreams. What all is going to be taking place?
Yeah, so we've got a special guest. The baseball bat bros are going to come and do a little home run derby with the Luther guys and the Briarcliff guys. That's going to start at a little bit after 3:30. We're shooting for 3:30, but we'll see. And then at 4 o'clock, we're going to have an alumni game, old timers game, if you will. And that's when also the VIP dinner will start as well. And then, both teams are going to be introduced coming out of the corn at 6, and then it's going to be first pitch at 6:30. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. We're inviting folks to come and walk around, hang out as much as they want. There's going to be food trucks there and concessions, and just give them that old-fashioned baseball atmosphere.
And you mentioned the old-fashioned atmosphere. Is there anything related to that? I know the Field of Dreams, you got the ghost players, you got the anything related to the movie. Are you going to sell any of the aspects of that related to this game coming up on Friday night?
Yeah, well, I mean, playing on that movie site, I think, is going to bring nostalgia in itself. We are going to wear some old school uniforms and try to collect back to what some of our programs looked like in the 60s vintage with our hats and our uniform tops. So we're looking forward to that. But, playing on a smaller field with no outfield fence, just corn, a power line running right through the middle of it, the lights in the field of play. I think that's all folks need to see to know, like, hey, this is the baseball purity in itself. And that's what we're really excited to try to showcase. The movie itself was about a kid and his dad, and a kid not taking that chance to play catch with his dad one last time. And that's something we're going to try to make aware to all of our guys moving to this game of what is this game really about to us, and what is the opportunity that we have here as college baseball players. We're very fortunate to get to do a game that we love at a very high level with some of our best friends. And that's something that is really important to us in our program. And I know Coach McLaughlin at Briarcliff as well. So we're really looking forward to driving that home and letting our kids experience that in front of all their loved ones.
And 6:30 coming up on Friday night. Are tickets still available?
Some tickets still are available. The general admission aspect is sold out. It actually sold out, I think, 4 days after we started selling tickets. But there definitely are some tickets available, so you can jump on either website to find those. We'd love to have you if you're still thinking about coming. It's going to be an amazing experience.
Of course, we're talking about the event itself, and the event is going to be pretty cool. But this is also part of your development to try to make your 2023 baseball team as good as possible come spring. You are playing a game. Tell us about the Division III rules, which allow you to do this at this time of year.
Yeah, we're allowed to play one competition or exhibition, if you will, in the fall against an outside opponent. So this will count as that. But you're 100% right, Darren. We're trying to get a look at our guys. We're getting ready for, looking at who's going to play where and playing some guys from different spots. You're going to see a lot of different guys moving around. We're going to have somewhat of a free substitution going on, which is good. We're going to try to get as many kids in the game as possible. But also, you know me, Darren, we're going to put spikes and uniform on. We're going to try to win, no doubt. We're going to play really hard and try to get after it. And I expect Briarcliff to do the same. So it's going to be very competitive, but also try to have that fun atmosphere too.
And you mentioned the free substitution rules. Tell us about that, to explain that to folks that probably won't understand the traditional way of watching you guys play in the spring.
Yeah, I mean, different than high school, NCAA rules are very similar to MLB as far as the substitutions. We'd be more like the American League rules with the DH. There's some different things with the DH in college baseball with a pitcher DH combination. So usually in a game for us in the spring, if we make a substitution, that person cannot re-enter. But we're going to play this one a little bit different because every time we play in the fall and we scrimmage in the fall, we're just trying to get looks at guys. And as I said earlier, playing them at a few different spots. And for this game, we want to get as many guys in the game as possible. Both of us have large rosters. So trying to get a kid in to maybe play 3 outs of defense, get an at bat, and do some of those things whenever it's possible.
So my scorecard is going to be messy at the end of the night, basically.
Scorecard is going to be really messy, and I know you always know this. You're going to make sure you're going to want to write in pencil and have plenty of erasers.
No doubt about it. Anything else you want to pass on regarding this event coming up on Friday night? Most importantly, in talking to your guys, how excited are they to be a part of it?
I mean, they're really fired up. This is, when we made the announcement last year, we were down in the basement of our building here, and people on the top level heard them erupt with excitement for this. So they're extremely excited, and I think the intensity in practice this fall has shown that their eagerness to get out there and play well in front of all their family and friends. But yeah, I mean, if you're coming to the game, I'd encourage you to bring your glove. Be like a little kid. You know, me and Darren, we were joking earlier that you're kind of trying to channel that 12-year-old in yourself. And that's what we're after. We want our fans to be like a little kid. And after that game, man, I want people to go out there and play catch with maybe their son, maybe a loved one. Like I said, the whole point of that movie was to do what's right. And make that extra phone call if you need to make that call. Stop and see that friend. Say hi to that kid that no one else says hi to. So bring a glove if you're going to be there, man. Try to catch a foul ball and walk on that field afterwards and think about the purity of baseball and all the good things it's brought.
And that's the thing, and that's probably my favorite thing about the movie itself and that site. So much of the national conversation focuses on the business of baseball, and the business of baseball has a lot of flaws in it, but the game itself is as pure and as Americana as it gets. And I know you agree with me.
Yeah, 100%, Darren. This game has brought a lot of things to me. I probably wouldn't have been able to receive a college education if I couldn't play a little baseball. So, the game is given and given and given to me, and I'm excited to be able to, right now raise my kids around it and have them come to the baseball field and watching our kids play and get to know our players and to see how great a young men they are and to watch what they go do in life. And they can always look back at not necessarily the results that they got on the baseball field, but the things they were able to do with hard work, character, discipline, being a good teammate. I mean, the life lessons just go on and on and on. And you're 100% right, Darren. The business end gets in the way of a lot of the purity of the game. And I think, especially Division III athletics, we're playing the purity of the game here. And these kids love to play, and that's why they're here. And it's an absolute joy to coach them and get to sit back in a dugout and watch them fly around on that field and play like a 12-year-old. One thing we try to say a lot in our program is to man up and play like a boy, and to think back of why you started playing this game. It wasn't for cool uniforms. It wasn't so you could play in front of a bunch of fans. When we were all little kids out there on those fields playing t-ball or coach pitch or whatever, you played because you loved to play. You played because your friends were out there with you. And we got to remind our kids of that every once in a while. But I think overall they get that, and that's a special thing.
And overall, your program and the young men in your program, dare I say, have earned the right to get this opportunity.
Yeah, they have, for sure. We're very fortunate that Briarcliff invited us to be along, and I think it's been a great partnership on each end of the state, and both have great alumni bases. Both programs have very competitive programs. So yeah, it's we talk about earning the right, and these are the things you got to work really hard and be part of a program, and good things come at you.
All right, Bryan, we appreciate you taking some time talking about the Game of Dreams coming up this Friday night. I'm looking forward to being a part of it, and a very small part of it coming up Friday night. It'll be a night to remember for all involved, most importantly, the young men in your baseball program and the Briarcliff baseball program. It will be a memorable night, and thanks for the time this morning.
Thank you, Darren. We're looking forward to having you be a part of it. Go North.
Bryan Nikkel, head coach of the Luther baseball team. The Luther baseball team taking on Briarcliff at the Field of Dreams Friday night in Dyersville. Coming up this Saturday is the Alzheimer's Association Walk to End Alzheimer's in Northeast Iowa. It will take place in Decorah this Saturday, and with us to discuss the walk is Christine Hess, the manager of the Decorah Walk. And Christine, tell us about the event coming up this Saturday, the specifics and the purpose of the walk.
Yeah, so this weekend we have our walk. It is at Decorah City Hall, right across from the farmers market. Registration and networking is going to begin at 8 a.m. and then our ceremony will begin at 9. And the walk should start about 9:15, 9:20. Everything should be wrapped up about 10 o'clock.
And what is all included in this walk? What do folks need to know if they wish to participate?
Yeah, so if they wish to participate, they need to register. It is free to register online at act.alz.org/Northeast Iowa Walk. So just NEI Walk. It's, like I said, free to register, but we encourage donations. We are currently sitting at 52% of our fundraising goal. So hoping to see more donations come in on walk day. Other than that, on the day of, if you choose to join us, we have paper registration forms you can fill out at the registration table.
What is your goal from a fundraising perspective for this year?
It is $28,000 this year.
And on walk day, those that are walking, I understand will have flowers and Promise Garden flowers that are a part of this event. Explain that connection.
Yeah, so those Promise Garden flowers really represent our mission to end Alzheimer's and all other dementias. So I hold the purple flower, which symbolizes that I've lost someone to Alzheimer's. I've lost my grandfather. On our committee, we have a lot of people that also hold those purple flowers. The yellow flower represents caregivers, so nurses, family members that are taking care of those with dementia. The orange flower just means you support this cause, you've seen the devastation that it creates, and you want to see a world without Alzheimer's. And then blue means that you have dementia or Alzheimer's. So it's just a really great way to share hope. And when you look around and everyone's holding up their connection, you just feel really supported and loved. That's why my family has been participating in Walk for so long.
How many Americans overall are dealing with Alzheimer's right now?
Right now, it's over 6 million Americans that are living with Alzheimer's.
And I'd imagine this is one of those things that people are dealing with, that it not only affects the individual, but really affects all of their loved ones around them. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. The unpaid caregivers make up 73,000 of the caregivers here in Iowa. And right now we have 66,000 Iowans with Alzheimer's.
And if somebody is busy on Saturday and can't participate in the walk, but wants to donate to your cause, is there an option for them to do so?
Yes, on our website, again, you can donate to any of the teams that you see if you have someone local that you support. We have a variety of companies that are supporting us this year. Tyson's just started their fundraiser in New Hampton for us. So, and then all of our volunteers, of course, help me plan and execute the walk every year. And they definitely make it work.
You mentioned your connection to Alzheimer's with your grandfather passing away from Alzheimer's. The people that work on the committee, do most of them kind of get involved through a family connection like yourself?
Yes. I believe all of us have a connection to the cause in one way or another.
And just give us a final reminder of the walk coming up this Saturday. If you want to participate, how do you do that? And more importantly, if folks want to donate, how do they do that?
Yeah, so you can join us on walk day, register and donate there, or you can join us on act.alz.org/NEI walk. We also have a mobile app. You can upload a check right there to your walker account, and it's easy. There's lots of resources if you check out our Facebook page for you to utilize to fundraise or to upload those donations.
Christine, we appreciate you taking some time telling us about the walk coming up this Saturday. We appreciate everybody, including yourself, and all the work you do for a very worthy cause here in Northeast Iowa. Again, thanks for the time this morning.
Thank you.
Christine Hess from the Northeast Iowa Walk to End Alzheimer's coming up this Saturday. Registration at 8 a.m. Walk begins at 9 a.m. at Decorah City Hall. Next week is Child Passenger Safety Week, and here to discuss that is Lori Berry with Helping Services for Youth and Family. And Lori, tell us your role with Helping Services.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a family educator with Helping Services. So we do home visits for prenatal and birth to 3, and we use the Parents as Teachers curriculum, which is evidence-based. So that provides information for the parents of what their child should be doing and what to look forward to, and help meeting the child's milestones.
And you're also involved in child passenger safety as well, from what I understand.
I am. I became a tech back in 2005, so that gives me 17 years of certification under my belt. And then I had grown such a passion for it that I became an instructor in 2009. So that has given me 13 years of teaching classes and meeting folks around the state of Iowa and certifying others in becoming child passenger safety technician. And our ultimate goal is to have everyone's little bundle of joy to travel as safe as possible.
And when it comes to child car seats, there are different types of seats. Explain the differences to us.
Oh, absolutely. So the first seat is one you commonly see parents leaving the hospital with their little bundle of joy, and that's called a rear-facing only seat. And that one you'll see that has a handle on it, and they can easily transport them from house to car and put them in the car when it has a base that it sets in. And also those seats can be installed without a base for grandparents for easy pickup from daycare or such. In that seat, typically it can go 25 pounds, it can go 30 pounds, it can go 35 pounds. Manufacturers have really increased the weight and height on these seats. So truly there isn't a stamp of, okay, this seat's only good to X number of weight. So we need to read the manuals. And anyway, that seat is commonly used as long as the parents are able to carry the seat and the baby inside, because the seat will weigh, maybe 10, 15 pounds, plus your baby weigh 15 pounds, that's lugging 30 pounds. So oftentimes then they will go to the next seat, which is called a convertible seat. And the convertible seat means that it goes rear facing, and then it can convert to go forward facing as the child grows. We encourage parents and caregivers to keep their child rear facing as long as possible, that the seat allows it by height or weight. So that means the child could be rear facing up to age 2 or longer if they're a little petite person. So that's the safest. And we can go into that a little bit by the shelves protecting the spine, the neck, and the head of the babes. That's the major point there. Then when the child has either outgrown the seat for rear facing, either by height or weight, then we switch the seat into the convertible mode, which is we switch it from rear facing to forward facing. And there's some steps that needs to be done with that. Again, we follow the manual of the car seat to make sure it's all done correctly. And then that child is riding forward facing. And then again, in that particular seat, we need to keep them in that 5-point harness or in that harness system until they have outgrown the weight for the harness system or the height for the seat. And then after the convertible seat, you'll see the forward facing seats, or that have a little higher weight for those children that are a little bit more of a challenge to keep still in the car and they're not quite ready to hit the booster mode. So we look at those, and then the booster seat, which is exactly what it says. It boosts their little bottom up so that it puts the seat belt in the correct position up over their upper thighs and across their shoulder and through the mid portion of the chest, of which is the strongest bones in our body. And that's why we need the booster seat, because oftentimes if they just sit in the seat belt's riding on their neck, and those little kiddos, they like to put the seat behind their arm or behind them, then we're not protecting that upper body. So the booster seat, it's important to have the high back if you have a low back vehicle seat or no head restraint or headrest. Otherwise, they can be used in the backless mode in just the seat itself.
And those are the different types of seats. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, nope, no problem. That is the different types of seats. After the booster mode, then we go to the vehicle seat. And people often wonder why or how their child is ready for just to sit in the seatbelt in the vehicle seat like us adults do. Well, we have what they call the belt test. So the child needs to sit in the vehicle seat clear to the back. So the back of the child is equal to the back of the seat. And then they're sitting there with their knees that bend naturally over the seat part of the vehicle seat, and their feet touching towards the floor. And that way, so that the seat belt hits them in the right place in mid-shoulder, across the chest, and their upper thighs. If they're too short, then that's when the belt's right in their neck and they're going to put that belt behind them. And we don't want that. We want them to travel as safe as possible.
And related to all of these seats, how many of these are recommendations, and based on how the kid is growing and how old they are, what are any potential laws regarding traveling in child safety seats, having your children in the car with you?
Okay. First of all, being that we border, states, it's also important for families to know what state they're going to be traveling in and what their child passenger safety laws are. So we want to make sure that we get that out there. In the state of Iowa, we're kind of behind on times. The state law for a child must be in appropriate rear-facing seat until they're 1 year of age, and the important word there is and 20 pounds. But we as technician, we focus on best practice, and we want them to be rear facing as long as the seat will hold them weight or in height.
And as a technician yourself, what are the main questions you get from parents when they're considering purchasing a seat or wondering what to do regarding traveling with their child and putting them in a car seat?
Yes, we get lots of those questions. Lots of what is this best seat out there? And I want everyone to know that there's different dollar values on each of the seats. Obviously, the higher value, the higher dollar price tag, it has more bells and whistles. They are all crash tested by NHTSA, and they meet all the safety standard features. And so whether it's the cheaper end or if it's the higher end of a seat, regardless, they all have been crash tested and they function according to our federal motor vehicle safety standards.
And related to those seats and keeping those in mind, what in general do people need to keep in mind when looking for car seats and when traveling in general, whether it's a toddler or all the way up to a 5 or a 6-year-old? What are the things parents should keep in mind when traveling with children?
So just the safety of the child. We all know that if we put a child in the seat and buckle them up each and every time, that becomes a normal. If we take a shortcut, and whatever that shortcut may be, that's when the child is going to say, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. This is too tight. This is not right. Yada, yada, yada. So my important thing is to buckle that child up each and every time for a safe ride. And, going back to like what is the best seat is one that, fits your vehicle, fits your child, and that the caregiver is able to use correctly each and every ride.
Anything else we need to keep in mind regarding child safety, child safety passenger week next week? Anything we're missing here this morning?
Well, I just want to put out there that if there's anyone that has any questions, wants a phone call, would like to have a one-on-one check to make sure their seat is installed correctly, or if they have any personal questions that they want to meet with us, to be sure and give the office a call and talk to one of our certified technicians.
All right, Lori, we thank you for taking the time this morning and providing us this great information. I think it's one of those things that we all realize the importance of it, but it's not just a this or that thing. There's a lot of nuances, a lot of things to keep in mind, because the ultimate goal is to keeping young people safe. And you guys are the experts at that, and we appreciate you taking some time, giving us some tips, and for what you and everybody else at Helping Services does for the community.
Thank you so much.
Lori Berry with Helping Services for Youth and Families. Getting our monthly check-in with the superintendent of the Decorah Community School District, Tim Cronin, and it was a busy board agenda this week. On Monday night, Tim, talking to your board president, Ron Fonnes, he told me there was a couple of matters that you guys dealt with that he's been dealing with for 13 years on the board. The first matter, a new bus garage is going to be purchased. How did that purchase, and how did the district decide that property was the right one to pursue?
So I kind of came into this process has been going on for a long time. We currently rent the space out by Luther College, that space, besides being rented, is once we got the buses from the North Wind School, part of the merger, that space is a little tight. If you ever go by there when all the buses are there, it's tight. But imagine when the drivers come in and have to park and then drive out on the buses, that is super tight. I think I was coming back from a meeting one day and I was like, oh, wow. So they've got to navigate where they park their own personal vehicles and then get their vehicles out. So we were looking for a bigger space. We've looked. I know that prior to me getting here, they had talked with a couple other properties that just weren't coming for sale, but maybe they'd had conversations. And I don't know exactly how the Voltmer property came available, but we've had discussions with Mike Voltmer and his real estate agent, and kind of talked about the price, and talked to our transportation folks about what we needed maybe do to the facility. And so the good news is Mike was willing to sell it. We're pleased with the 1.2 million, and then the $400,000 upgrades. That was cheaper than the district had estimates of about 2.1 to build a brand new facility, and that would have been up the hill and kind of out by the Toppling Goliath. And that wasn't something that we were super keen to do, to go up the hill with just getting our issues. So yeah, it seems like it's taken a long time for me, because I've been here and that's all we've kind of really focused on. But I know that this has probably been something that, gosh, they've been talking about this, I think, since Ron's been on the board. So maybe even 10 years or so. But we will take possession June 1st, 2023, and our lease is up June 30th. So that gives us a month to move everything over. Yeah, we're just real excited about having a kind of a permanent space, and we'll have a bigger shop area, so we'll be able to do more of our fixes in-house. And we've got a mechanic that for the district that is pretty excited about having space to be able to do more than just maybe, basic oil changes and stuff.
How will that purchase be financed?
That we'll use our Pepple and Save fund balances for that. So you're aware, Save is the 1 cent tax that that the state pays out to school districts for infrastructure improvements, and then Pepple is a bonded levy for physical and plan improvements. So both of those kind of Pepple and Save together go in, tend to buy your buses, buildings, and any kind of large equipment per district.
Another matter that got taken care of on Monday night, you have made an agreement to auction off the North Winneshiek building. Give us the details on that.
So we went out, did a request for proposal for auctioneers. We had 3 companies respond, and kind of from all over. The auctioneer that got that received the board approved is Burke out of Cresco. And so the process now is they'll market the property, and they've got a couple different ideas on how they're going to do that, and we're kind of finalizing some of that. They'll market the property. There's personal equipment inside the facility that will do an auction of that property, of like desks and chairs, and I think there's a refrigerator, that stuff inside, and then they'll actually do the land. And there's a procedure where they may offer the land in 2 or 3 different plots and or one as a whole, and then they get whatever gets the largest bid goes to the board. Board has a public hearing about that and then approves the sale. So it's a little different than if you or I were just buying the land, because after the auction is over, then it still has to be approved. And so that has to go through. That's just how school districts have to do, sell property. I guess it's easier to purchase property than it is to sell property for school districts stepwise. So.
And the proceeds from the sale of that building, or whatever is in that building, where would those proceeds go? What budget are they earmarked to?
Not ever having sold that before, quickly did a little research, and that'll go into the district's general fund. So that's, interesting. Like, we buy property with our Pepple and Save, but we can, which is restrictive. And we have all sorts of different fund accounts with the school district that we can, the money that we take in, we can only use for certain purposes, but the general fund we can use for anything. So the proceeds from the sale would go into the general fund. Of course, anytime you get a bonus in your general fund, you have to be careful that you don't, spend it on a recurring cost. So we'll be mindful of that as well.
And that money is going into the general fund. There is your general fund, and there's the spending authority in which the state gives you. How are those two things correlated, especially related to a purchase like this?
Yeah. How much time do you have?
Well, yeah, how much time do you have is the better
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
You're probably a little more busy.
So it's school districts operate in a unique situation where we really spending authority, the authority to spend money is more important than actually cash that you have on hand. And so it's kind of like your credit limit is your spending authority, and your just your fund balance is what you have in the bank. So when you anytime that you have money, you want to have the authority to spend it. So we usually get that on our general fund comes to us most of the time with per pupil allocation from the state, and then we get authority with that. If we run into deficits, the big ones for schools that you go out and ask for extra authority on is you ask for authority for your special ed deficit. Most school districts in the state of Iowa run a deficit on special ed, which just means that the special ed account has a certain amount of money in it, let's say $1 million, and your special ed costs to deliver those services might be 1.2 million. So then you've gone over, the $200,000. You can go back and ask the state for spending authority, which gives you the right to spend an extra $200,000. So you're always collecting spending authority. When you have a sale like this, you're not getting the authority, so you're hoping that you grabbed authority from other places. But generally, between the spending authority, the ways to grab spending authority are special ed deficit. If you increase your enrollment from last year, like open enrollment in, and we'll know that after certified enrollment, and then ELL population. So we'll be looking at that. Obviously, I think bigger school districts like Davenport, I think, ran into a problem where they had cash on hand, but they didn't have the authority to spend it. But it's something that we can work through. And as long as you manage that, you should be fine with making sure that you always are grabbing that authority to spend the money.
And speaking of certified enrollment, if I'm not mistaken, the date in which districts have to certify their enrollment, and that will be the money that you get your state aid based on, is coming up in the near future. Is that correct?
Yeah, so October 1st is the certified enrollment deadline. And so that's the day when we get our enrollment count on October 1st, 2022. When we build our budget in spring of 23 for the 23-24 school year, that's the number that we'll get from the state. So in effect, the enrollment, you're always getting a year behind from the state, in the sense that the children we're serving this year were actually funded by the enrollment we had last year at this time. And that's why you're allowed to go grab spending authority if you have certain increased costs. Like if you have a whole bunch of open enrollment in students, that's one of the reasons you can grab authority for that. And in looking at our numbers, it's interesting. We have had declining enrollment last couple of years, as most school districts in Iowa have. Right now, it looks like our enrollment is going to be closer to being flat this year, which is a good sign. And I hate to, never, it always, the numbers that you take classes and seats and doesn't always translate to certified enrollment. And me being new to Decorah and just kind of understanding, our population in kindergarten isn't going to be the same as 8th grade, 9th grade, because we get a lot of the St. Benedict students that come over. So just kind of learning our enrollment trends. Right now, it looks like we'll be flat for next year, which is certainly better than being a district that's declining in enrollment. But it won't be finalized till October 1st. So I won't say anything at that point in time.
I will ask you about it next month. Mental note taken.
Okay.
You held some discussion as well on the middle school at Carrie Lee outdoor recreation area. How'd that discussion go on Monday night?
Yeah, so we've got a space between Carrie Lee and the middle school, gets used all the time. And gets used all the time until it becomes a muddy mess. So we were kind of looking at something permanent because we're not able to grow grass there, and we've tried different solutions on that. We kind of kicked around ideas of putting in turf to that area, making it, and it might be able to be funded by ESSER 3 as an outdoor play area or outdoor recreational area. A couple things that we have to do. Anytime a project is going to be over $139,000 in the state of Iowa, you need to hire an architect or an engineer. And we also need to work through a process by which we decide, is turf really the answer? And if so, how much turf? So we're going to do two things before the next meeting. We're going to, like we did for the auctioneer, we're going to go do an RFP for architect to help us design this project. And then we're going to get a committee of staff that are out there with students on that space, supervising recess and whatnot, and just kind of get an early vision of what that could be. Obviously, architects will want to come in and have a lot of input with that process as well. We just, we need to get an architect hired, but we need to give the architect some ideas. Is it really going to be turf? Would a sport court work as well? I know that it gets used quite a bit for football. And so that's why I think that people were thinking turf, so that it's someone who played a lot of playground football. I'd rather play on turf than rubberized sport court, but that will be all decided at a later time.
Of course, when we were playing playground football back in the day, we didn't have any of those options beside the hard ground, of course.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to decide. We had a nice little grass area at my elementary school in Iowa City. So, I didn't grow up in the hard scrabble streets of Decorah, Darren. So I didn't have to play on a cinder block football field.
Well, and we went uphill both ways, but
yeah.
Exactly, that's the case. You're getting new lights at the baseball field. Why were the new lights necessary, and how was that project going to get paid for?
So that's another Pepple and Save. We do a priority list with our Pepple and Save projects where we bring in athletics, transportation, buildings and grounds, technology, department heads, as well as a business manager. So those are the main players that access so a school bus is going to come out of Pepple and Save, just like a new computer refresh is going to come out of Pepple and Save. We've got a priority list that we work through. Each department or division head is responsible for kind of prioritizing their list. So in the lighting system, when you talk to Adam Riley, the athletic director, the number one priority was baseball. Obviously, we'd like to, do baseball 1 year and then come back and, I don't know what's next on that list because we haven't had that meeting yet, but I'm sure be looking at upgrading lights. We did soccer a couple years ago, so baseball. So thinking ahead, probably softball and football will be the next ones that we'll do. And it's tremendous. If you've been to, we just did that process before I left Central City for baseball and softball with new lights, and we had a real dated system, but the new light systems warm up faster and are a lot more effective and more accurate. So there's not as much light pollution because they're more pinpointed.
And I know anyone who's seen the soccer field lights that we're putting in Decorah, you have the lights at the end of the soccer field, 5 feet beyond that, you're in pitch darkness. And that's a sign of what you're talking about.
Yeah. We had a neighbor next to the baseball field in Central City that was real concerned that we were going to get these bright lights, and he, it was going to really impact his house, and it was totally the opposite. I mean, it made it darker because like what you're saying, they do two for baseball. They have the upper lights and then they have a lower lights that point up. And so there is a little bit of adjusting on that. And I know in Central City, we started testing them last May, and the second baseman came in and said, when the ball goes up a certain amount on the pop flies, it goes into the dark area. So it disappeared. So that was interesting. The Musco folks, and they do all the lighting projects in Iowa and probably over the Midwest. They came out to the school the next week, adjusted it, and it worked just great. But so just to understand that you're going to have lights coming down from the top, and kind of pointing up from the bottom to cover all the area in the air.
One thing you mentioned in your superintendent's report as part of the board packet, the issue of propane buses. A, what are propane buses? B, why is the district looking into them?
Well, propane buses are buses that run on liquid propane. That's something that districts have looked at. There are a couple of different reasons. There's 2 different grants that run from the state of Iowa to help fund that. One is the Decorah grant, Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, and then the Volkswagen settlement. If you remember a couple of years ago, Volkswagen, the company was falsifying their diesel emission results. So there's a settlement and there's a bank of money available there. What that offers, if you apply and are awarded a grant, they fund anywhere between 25 to 35% of the purchase of a new bus to replace an old diesel bus. So if a school bus, they used to cost $100,000, they're a little bit higher than that, closer to about 125, but obviously, and I should say the propane buses maybe run like 10% more, but then if you can get 25% off, your out-of-pocket cost is less. So your purchase price is less. And then the cost to operate is a lot less. I just reviewed some stuff in Central City. We went to propane and we were able to reduce our pure fuel cost per mile. And I'm doing these from memory, but by about $1. So we're pretty excited about that. Now you have to understand that you're not always transporting the same roads and you expect fuel costs to go up. So any kind of reduction is good. I checked with my Linmar Transportation. They felt like the propane buses pay for themselves in 4 years. So I guess the first answer to your question is it's cheaper, especially if you get a grant. It's obviously a cleaner burning fuel. And that's one of the things that the board kind of liked about the idea, especially with the new bus barn. We'd probably have space to now have an LP tank of our own out there. With regards to operation of the propane buses, I'll tell you, if you're hearing this for the first time and you're a little skeptical, I was as well. Probably what helped sell propane buses to me was talking to other districts. And I took my board president, we went down to when I was at Central City, we went down to the Linmar complex and they showed us how fueling the buses was easy. They talked about the starting process, how they warmed up faster and they had more power than the diesel buses. And that's one of the things that I've heard from other drivers that say, well, so you understand they've done some gas buses and gas buses do not have the same power that diesel has. But propane, we found, our experience in Central City is they were more powerful than our diesel buses. And that was, if you've ever driven north out of Central City on Highway 13, there's a little bit of a hill, a grade of a hill. I might compare to the Locust Hill, and the bus drivers would have to floor it if they were driving a diesel bus. And they felt like when they drove the propane bus, it handled like a car. So we feel like operation will be good. I mean, I've had experience with it. I'm excited that in talking to Chris, our maintenance guy, that he's had experience and knows how to repair them. Probably the other on the fuel efficient thing, the point I made up, mentioned to the board on Monday was they don't gel up like diesel fuel. And the other thing is if you go to a sporting event with diesel buses, sometimes you just leave them running the whole night. If it's a cold night in July or January or February, you might leave the bus idling the whole time so that when the 3-4 hours of competition is over, you have a bus to drive home. You don't have to do that with propane because they don't gel up. The range on the propane bus, you want to get a larger tank, 100-gallon tank, and then it will be to capacity. You can fill it to about 80 gallons. And just to estimate, you might get 4 miles a gallon on the propane. So we always felt like we'd go 320 miles. And from Central City, which is down by Cedar Rapids, we would go up to Lansing Key and back with our propane bus. So understanding that the range, there's some answers to the range. And if you drove to Des Moines, there would be filling stations in Des Moines that you could get it filled. Now, I'm not saying we're going to totally change over our fleet. We're just talking about applying for a grant and doing a couple to start with and see how they respond and how drivers like them. But cheaper, cleaner, more efficient. How about those as I should have started with those 3 talking points, and then the rest just becomes me talking for a while.
Well, and you provided great information as usual. Anything else the public needs to know from the district perspective this morning?
Boy, I think you hit the big things that I can think of. So yeah, that's all good.
All right.
I'm good.
All right, Tim, we appreciate your time and your information as usual, and look forward to having another conversation with you next month.
All right. Sounds very good.
Tim Cronin, Superintendent of Schools at Decorah. Something to bring up before we start our interview with Micheal Coyle, the Chief Administrative Officer of Veterans Memorial Hospital. This interview was actually recorded last Friday, so he does refer to the meeting that took place at the Freedom Bank and Walk-On earlier this week. But there are future meetings bringing up, and we're bringing up the fact primarily during this interview that there's going to be plenty of opportunities for the public to get information and ask questions about the upcoming referendum. So if he does refer to Tuesday night, that is the meeting that was held this past Tuesday night. But the schedule of the upcoming meetings will also be a part of this interview as well. Just a little disclaimer before we get going with Micheal Coyle as our final guest here on Our Town. Having a conversation this morning with Veterans Memorial Hospital CEO Micheal Coyle, and a big vote coming up before Alamakee County voters in November of this year. Micheal, just explain what will be on the ballot this year and why it will be on the ballot.
Well, first of all, thanks for letting me get on. I'd love to talk about this very important topic. So we're on the ballot November 8th to move from city-owned to county-owned. Currently, we're city-owned, and we have been city-owned for pretty much our whole existence. So November 8th, it's going to be very simple. One question that basically says, do you want to move from city to county? So we're very excited for this opportunity and hoping the voters will support this movement.
How did the idea come to switch from a city-owned hospital to a county-owned medical center?
Well, in Iowa, there's not very many city-owned facilities any longer, maybe 2 or 3. So most folks probably 15, 20 years ago switched from city to county. And that we didn't do that. We've talked about it in the past several times, but never made the leap to do that. And so this time is perfect with everything we have going on here at the facility and the changing atmosphere and landscape in healthcare. It's a perfect time to switch from city to county.
And as for informing the folks about why this is necessary, you've got some meetings coming up beginning next week. Tell us about those.
Yeah, we have a ton of open forums starting. And so on the 13th in Walk-On will be our first forum. It's from 5 to 8 at Freedom Bank. And really the format's going to be, we have a presentation. We're going to ask and answer a lot of questions. And at the end of the presentation, I've got a calculator that if you know your taxable valuation, you can bring that in and I can pretty much pinpoint what your tax increase is going to be. Now, for the average homeowner, the average home in Alamakee County is valued at about $144,000. Now, obviously, that's taxable value, not resale value. And again, that's median value. Right now, we're looking at if you have a home that's about $144,000, we're asking for a levy around $950,000. So less than $1 million and way less than everyone around us has. And that will turn out to be about $85 for the year. So.
And when it comes to the taxable valuation, how much of the revenue that you guys need to operate actually comes from property taxes?
Well, right now it's city owned, and that's the reason why we want to move from city to county. We have no tax appropriation currently. So the city does provide a few things for us, but there's no tax generated at this point. And so the reason for moving from city to county is we get that ability to have some appropriations. And those things are designed to help us with the 70-year-old building. So it helps us purchase equipment. For example, we have a roof that we have to replace. It's well over $1 million. And so those are, we have a list of those things to try to keep, again, the 70-year-old building up and running and functioning.
Who is invited to these meetings?
Well, we ask everybody to come. If you have a question, if you just want to listen, please come. Now, again, we have 4 or 5 of them in Waukon, but we have 1 in New Albin, 2 in Postville, 1 in Lansing, 1 in Waterville, and 1 in Harpers. And they're on we have a landing page on our website. It's veteransmemorialhospital.com/vote yes. On that page has all the information you're ever going to want to know. So it's got all of our meeting information. It's got some great testimonials by patients and staff. It's got the meeting time, locations. It's got a place to sign up if you want direct emails about what the campaign looks like and getting more information. So everything's right there at their fingertips. But again, the first one will be September 13th at Freedom Bank from 5 to 8. And that's really generally open to the public. Now, we have a couple other specialty ones. We have one designed for business owners, one designed for the agricultural community. But most of our forums are completely and open to the public.
And if you could, why don't you run down the complete schedule of meetings that will be available to Alamoquir County residents to inform themselves about this vote?
Okay, let's start in Waukon. So September 13th from 5 to 8. We'll be at the Freedom Bank. And then on the 15th at noon, we're going to have the Waukon Chamber and Economic Development Committees here at the hospital. On the 14th of September, we're going to do Ag Leaders again at Freedom Bank from 11 to 1. On the 28th of September, we're going to do Waukon Business Leaders, and that will be 11 to 1 at Freedom Bank as well. And then the last one in Waukon will be on the 25th of October. And that's another community hall meeting where everybody's welcome, 5 to 8 on the 25th at Freedom Bank. In New Albin on the 29th of September, we'll have a meeting from 5 to 8, and that will be at the New Albin Community Center. So on the 29th, New Albin, 5 to 8 at the Community Center. We have 2 coming up in Postville. The 27th of September, 5 to 8, and that will be at the Northeast Iowa Wellness Center. So the 27th from 5 to 8, Northeast Iowa Wellness Center. And then again, November 1st, same location at the Wellness Center in Postville, 5 to 8 on November 1st. In Lansing, we're going to be at TJ Hunter's Banquet Hall on the 10th of October from 5 to 8. So Lansing, the 10th of October, 5 to 8 p.m., at the banquet hall. Waterville, will be in Waterville on the 11th of October, so the next day. And that will be, again, 5 to 8 at the Waterville Community Center. So Waterville, the 11th of October, 5 to 8 p.m. at the Community Center. And finally, in Harpers, we'll be there on the 18th of October, 5 to 8, and we're going to be at the Harper Ferry Community Center. Again, Harpers, the 18th of October, 5 to 8 at the Community Center. So that's the list. Now, we also, if you have a group, if you got a group of people, if you have a service organization, you have a business, and you want us to come in and have a chat, feel free to get a hold of us, and we will set that up. Our goal is to be 100% transparent, listen to all the comments, respond appropriately, so we get a yes vote.
All right, Micheal, I'll resist the temptation to go more deep into the woods because I'm guessing the folks in the public can probably ask better questions than I can, but I'll ask one specific related question related to this vote. Is this a simple majority vote to pass?
Well, yes, it is. So
okay.
It's one question, but it has 2 results. So voters in Waukon have to pass it in the Waukon community by simple majority, 1 over half. and then the county has to pass it, because the vote basically says we're going to take it away from the city and give it to the county. Now we have to remind people, you only vote once, but it has to pass the city, 1 majority, and the county. If one or the other fails, then the whole thing fails. So,
all right. Anything else you want to pass on at this point, Micheal? Anything else that the public needs to know as we're, I guess, now less than 2 months away from Election Day?
We just want people to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Call me here at the hospital. Come to the forums. Be prepared. Be engaged. Also, please visit our website and that landing page. So veteransmemorialhospital.com/vote yes. Everything you need to know is on that page. And there's some great testimonials. There's questions and answers. There's a place to sign up if you want to get email information. So please go there. And again, if you have a small group, if you have an organization, a church, whatever, and you want us to come and present to you, please reach out to us.
Micheal, appreciate the time and the information this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Micheal Coyle from Veterans Memorial Hospital in Waukon. Hey, thank you to our guest on the program this morning, Luther baseball coach Bryan Nikkel, talking about the Game of Dreams tomorrow night at the Field of Dreams in Dyersville. I will be a part of the MediaCom Connections TV broadcast team for that one, in case you are interested. Working with Rob Brooks and Jerry Koala tomorrow night. Christine Hess talking about the Northeast Iowa Walk to End Alzheimer's. It will take place Saturday. Registration beginning at Decorah City Hall at 8 a.m. Lori Berry with Helping Services for Youth and Families discussing Child Passenger Safety Week, which will be held next week. Always good to chat with Tim Cronin, the Decorah School Superintendent, and Micheal Coyle from Veterans Memorial Hospital in Waukon. Micheal discussing the upcoming public meetings regarding the referendum in November, asking city and county taxpayers to see if they would like to see Veterans Memorial Hospital transfer from a city-owned facility to a county-owned facility. Don't forget, each and every week we put these shows on YouTube. We realize can't always be by a radio or a streaming device at 9 a.m. on a Thursday morning, but we want to bring the content that we produce out to you. And you can see the people that we talk to on a week in and week out basis. For this show, go to YouTube, go to 9-15 Our Town program. That's a good way to get it. And we also put the links to this program up at our Facebook pages on all of our LA communications stations as well. Another way we bring what we do to you at your convenience here at LA Communications. Thanks to our guests. Thanks to our sponsor, Decorah Bank and Trust, and most importantly, thanks to you for tuning in, for logging on, or for watching Our Town on 94.9 and 99.1 The River.